Hi there, abhik here. So today we'll be building these rock paper scissors games where on selecting any of that you will get a feel like this. So let me show you again. So if I press the play again, let me show you the advanced mode first. So if I play the play again and then I select Spock, and then it will shake like this for both of them, and then it will set this pulse animation for this whichever wins, and also it will update the score accordingly. And if you tie, then there will be no animations, pulse animations. Otherwise, if you lose, then there will be pulse animation for the house picked. And it's also responsive as well. So let me show you the responsive part. So, and this is built with Next.js, and we will use framer motion for the animations, and you can see it's damn responsive. So this is something you can this is something we are going to build today. And let me show you once again. And also we will have this rules button down below, and it will show the rules for all these modes. So what we will do, we will create rules and modes button first, and then after that we will create a header component which will have that score also. And also we will create play buttons component with buttons and all these animations for them. And also we will create GameRules array then, and also a randomInt function. And after that we will create results component which will actually execute this checking of whether we win, lose, tie, whatever. And also it will shake the buttons for 2 seconds, and then it will get and display the result accordingly. So the game rules array, this array will be an array of objects for all the game elements, and object structure will be like this. So the value property will have the name of the object. For example, it is scissor, paper, rock, lizard, Spock, whatever. And beats will have an array of all the objects which this value beats. So for example, if scissor is the value, then beats will have paper and lizard, for just because scissor beats paper and lizard in the game. So that's something. And for a rock it will be something else, like that. And array length will be 3 for the normal mode and 5 for the advanced mode. So what our game logic will be? So our game logic will be, we will get a random value from the randomInt function, and then we will get the object at that random values index. I mean, this random value is a number, so we will get the index of that object. So we'll get the value of the object, I mean the object from the game rules array in that index, which object's index is that index random value. So then we will check if that object actually beats the user or not. So if the objects beats array has that object that user has selected already, then it means we have lost the game. Otherwise, if the object's value actually matches with the object's that user selected value, then we will have a tie. Otherwise, if both this condition fail, then the user wins. So this is the starter code in the GitHub repo, and I will provide a link in the description, so you can see this. And this, you can go to the comments and you can see that this is made for both JavaScript devs and for TypeScript devs, but I will be using TypeScript, but you can use JavaScript as well. It will be very easy for JavaScript devs. So that's something. And inside the style guide.md you will have those styles, and inside the public you will have those images, and inside the designs you will have those objects you need, designs you need, and public will also have the SVGs as needed. So the framer motion basics you need to know before starting this tutorial. So here inside the starter code we will have the components directory, which will have all the React components we need, and the design directory will have all the designs we need for reference, and then a bonus and original designs all we need for reference. And the node modules will be have the node modules. The pages will have app.js and index.tsx. We won't touch the app.js. And public will have all the SVGs, icons, backgrounds, rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock, all the icons we need. Shared directory will have some shared code, functions and arrays we need for all the components, which will be shared between all the components. And there will be styles which will be needed for all these styles. CSS files will be stored in the CSS styles directory. If you are using JS approach for this, so this is the arrow function component for JS devs, and try to use this approach for JSX values. So also don't create TSX files. If you are using JS approach, then you create JS files, index.js, header.js, rules.js, like that. Okay. So we will first create this background. So for that, inside this body we will have a background image with linear gradient, and it will be at center, circle at top center, which will have our HSL values for that, and you can get these HSL values. So the background size will be cover and height will be 100 viewport height. Now height 100 viewport height is absolutely necessary for this wonderful background to take place, this background circular a gradient texture, otherwise it won't happen. So for that you need the max height. Now the height can be anything, but I set it to 100 viewport height, so that will be helpful. And also I will now have a piece of state. Now this piece of state is necessary for the advanced mode. So let me show you what I mean. So here inside this image you can see that in the left, bottom left, we will have an advanced button, and also we will have these rules and every other button will be displayed according to the advanced. So we need that advanced mode absolutely necessary. So we will have it at the top of the container, so it will be at home function only, and it will have the advanced mode set to advanced mode, use state will be false, and we will also have a function handle click which will set the advanced mode to the opposite of what advanced mode currently is. So if it is true, then it will be set to false, otherwise it will be set to true as well. So if it is false, it will be set to true. And also inside the footer we will have two divs. So first div will be class name modes, and this will be the advanced mode button. So on clicking it will handle click, call the handle click function, and advanced mode is true, then it will have the text advanced, otherwise it will have the text normal, and then it will have the mode text which is constant. And then it will have another div, that is class name rules. So this class name rules will be necessary, and header component is something I will create later on. So I have imported it, but I haven't created it yet. So let me change the name of the handle click function to change modes. Now that will change mode, that will be a very appropriate name right now. So let's import the fonts, and I have linked them in the description as well. And let me give the font family Barlow semi-condensed and sans serif to font family to the body as well. So let's stylize the footer now. Width will be 100%, display will be fixed, justify content will be space between, and padding will be 5 pixels and 20 pixels, and the position will also be fixed, and bottom will be 10 pixels. So the modes and the rules will also have some padding of 8 pixels and 25 pixels, and color will be white, and border radius will be 8 pixels also, and text transform will be uppercase. Now this text transform uppercase is absolutely necessary. If you see that advanced mode is present here and it's responsive, and on pressing the advanced mode it is actually changing. So the advanced mode, normal mode, etc., it's changing. Now I have already created a header.tsx inside the components folder, and also I have created a header.module.css in the styles directory. So here I am declaring a type header props. Now this is again for the TypeScript people, which will have advanced boolean and score will be number. And then I will export a constant header arrow functional component which will have header props, and the header props will be advanced and score. And then inside that I will have animated share layout, which will have inside that a div with class name of styles.header, and also inside that we will have motion div which will have a class name based on whether advanced is true or not. If it is true, then it will have styles.advanced title, otherwise it will have a styles.title. And note that I have imported animated share layout motion from framer motion, and also inside that motion div we will have 3 divs which will be rock, paper, scissors. And if advanced is true, then we will have a react fragment which will have divs lizard and Spock, and also have this motion div are property of layout. And other than that we will also have a div which will be used for the score. So it will have a class name of styles.score, and inside that we will have a h4 which will be score, and h1 will have the actual value of the score. So now inside the index.tsx we will actually have this header component, and this header component will have that props advanced will be the advanced mode, and score for now it will be 0, otherwise afterwards we will have a dynamic value for that as well. So now inside this header.css we will have this header class which will have a display of flex, justify content will be space between, so that there is space between the score and the titles, and text transform will be uppercase, so everything is uppercased. And width will be 50%, margin will be 5 pixel auto, and padding will be 15 pixels. Now there will be a border with 1 pixel solid and HSL will value which you can get from style guide, and border radius will be 8 pixels. Also the font size will be much larger, and the color will be white. Align items will be center, so the text color will be white, and they will be aligned to center. And also the title will also have a display of flex, and flex direction will be column, and justify contents will be center. Now for the advanced title, it will have a much lesser font size, so that everything fits in. And also the score will have a background color, and also the padding will be 10 pixels, and width will be 25%. And now the text align will be also be centered, so that all the header tags inside this code will have a text align of center, and it will be also be placed in center of that box, so it will have a display of grid, and place items will be center. Also it will have a height, and score h4 will have a color, which is again from the style guide. And also the score h1 will, which is the score value, which also have a color, and align self will be start, and for score h4 the align self will be end. Also the font sizes will be 20 pixels and 14 pixels for both of them. Now I will have this responsive design for that. So for that, media screen and max width 768 pixels, then it will, the header will have a width of 80%, and the score will have a width of 40%. So let's see what it looks like. So it looks like this for normal mode, and for advanced mode it will look like this. So that's something, and it's look like this on mobile screens. So here I will have another piece of state, that is this open and set open. So these will consider that whether we should have these rules, or to be this will say whether we should show the rules or not. So for that we need this open and set open. And also note that I am importing rules from component rules. I have already created rules tsx, so I will create the rules component shortly. So inside, after the footer, here below the footer, I will have a rules component. I will show our rules component, and here I will set the set open, which will set this set open. Notice that this one is small letters and this one is in capital letters, o. So this will set this set open to the opposite value of whatever open is right now. So this set open. So now also it will set advanced to advanced mode. Now this advanced is required so that it can show different rules based on whether it is advanced mode or whether it is normal mode. Also I will pass the open value so that it can show whether it is open, and if it is not open then it will not show the rules. So I'm not having the conditional rendering here, but I will have that inside the rules component, and this will set the whether we should conditional render or not, this set open. So let's create the rules component now. So notice I have already imported animate presence and motion, react function component, use state and styles. Now use state is not required, but I have just imported it in case. So here I will define the rules props, which if you are using TypeScript then obviously you need to do. Advanced will be boolean, set open and a will be any because it's a function, and open will also be boolean. So now let's create this functional component, and here it will take the three props, open, advanced and set open, and it will render return animate presence. Inside this animate presence we will have whether if it is open then only we will have something, otherwise we will return nothing at all. So if open, then it will return a motion div which has a class name of styles.rules, and inside that it will have initial, animate and exit will all have a opacity, and animate will have opacity 1. So, and then it will if we click on this motion div, then it will say call this set open function, and this set open function will fire up this set open, which will change the value of the open. If it is true, then it will set it to false, like that. And inside that we will have a div with class name of styles.title, and here we will have a h1 with rules, and there will be the icon close svg, and also inside there will be another div which will have a class name of styles.image. These will conditionally render if the mode is advanced, then it will render the image rules bonus, that is the advanced svg, advanced rules. Otherwise it will show the normal rules. So you can get all of those inside this public directory, if you are following the starter code, or you can get it from Frontend Mentor as well. So then we can now let's stylize also. So for rules we will have position absolute, and top will be 50%, left will be 50%, and transform translate will be -50%, -50% each, so that it is inside the center. And this is desktop first approach, and background will be white. Also maximum height will be 650 pixels and padding will be 30 pixels. Now height will be and width will be 65% and 40% each, and then I will also give it a box shadow of 2 pixel, 12 pixel and 24 pixel spread, and black also obviously with opacity 0.3. And title will be display flex, and justify content will be space between, so there is a space between them, a lot of space between them, and align items will be center, and the color of the title text will have this HSL color, and text transform will obviously be uppercase. Also the title image will have a width and height of 6%, so that it is not big enough or not its original size. And image will also have width and height of 100%, and display will be grid, and place items will be center. And also I will have a media query for max width 1023 pixels, so that it for small screens or for mobile it will be shown as top 0, left 0, transform will be none, so it will take full screen approach. Okay, width and height will also be 100%, and max height will be also be 100%, just because we have set max height here as well, so for that. And also padding will be 20 pixels, so it works. So let's see how it looks like. So now I am creating a play component, and inside this play component will those play buttons be there. So let's create this play component, and these play buttons I'm talking about. So for that we need to have this play component, which will have same props like rules rules props. And also I will create this as a functional component, which will have take the advanced property right now, and it will check have a motion div class name of styles.container, and will have some animations of rotation. And inside that we will check if the advance is true, then it will display the bg pentagon svg image. Otherwise if the advance is false, then it is a normal mode, so it will have a triangle svg. And below that we will render our play buttons, which will also take the advanced prop. So here the play buttons are having this advanced prop, which is the only prop they are taking, and inside that we will have animated shared layout, so that whenever we change our modes, it will have a transitioning these buttons will have some transitions. So here inside this animated shared layout, we will have a class name or div with class name of styles.playbuttons, and inside that we will check if the advance is true, then we'll display a 3 grid div. Otherwise we will have a 2 grid div, so that means a 3 row grid div, otherwise a 2 row grid div. So and this is the first row and this is the second row, so this is a 2 row grid, and this is 1 row, 2 row and 3 row, so this is a 3 row grid. So inside those grids we will have button components. So these button components are those buttons, and they will take a class name and LID, which will serve as the layout ID, and also they will have a children of image with src will be those icons. So for each it will be scissors, for the styles.spock it will have spock, for paper it will also take a LID and paper icon, and styles will be paper. For lizard it will have styles.liz, and also for rocks it will have another LID and image src will be icon rock. Also for the 2 grid it will also have those same buttons, but styles will be sci2 and image src will be icon scissors as usual. And for the and they will also have LID of SCI, so LID should be same, but the class names are different, SCI, SCI2, paper, paper2, rock, rock2, like that, but LIDs are same and the icons will be also be same. You can see what I am doing. Now let's create this button component. So here I am also importing the styles from play module CSS for all these 3 files, play buttons and button. So here inside this button we will have another function component, which will take class n, children and LID as props, and there will be returning a motion div whose layout ID will be LID and class name will be class n. And inside that we will have another div which will have a class name of styles.inside, and inside that will our children that images will lie. So now let's stylize them. So for that container will have a width of 100%, and this is the container I'm talking about in the play component. So they will have a height of 60 viewport height, display will be grid, place items will be center, and position will be relative. And play buttons will have a position of absolute, with top 0, left 0, display will be grid, place items will be center, and height and width will be 100% each. The third grid will, 3 grid will have height of 100%, width will be 360 pixels, and display will be grid. Grid template rows will be repeat 3 1 a fractional unit each, and grid templates areas will be SCI, Spock, paper, leaves, rock. So these are you can understand these are pretty self-explanatory. So the two grid will have a height of 360 pixels and width will be 380 pixels, and it will also have a display of grid, but the grid template rows will be repeat 2 1 fractional unit each, and grid template areas will be rock, paper, SCI. So now let's stylize this SCI to rock, paper to paper, leaves, and Spock classes. So all will have a border radius of 50%, width will be 100 pixel and height will be 100 pixel each, and the position will be relative. Also they will have a background of white, and visibility will be visible important. Now we are having this visibility background of white, but we will eventually remove that background. Background image will be linear gradient for each, and SCI will have a grid area of SCI, justify self will be centered, and this is for 3 grid. SCI2 will have a justify area of center as well. Rock will have a grid area of rock. Rock 2 will also have a grid area of rock, and justify self, you can see those justify selves. For paper 2, the justify self will be end for paper 1, and paper 2 will have a justify self of center, and linear gradients for each of them, and leaves will also have these same properties. So this justify self will make sure that those are aligned perfectly as the diagram says, and also the inside will have the position of absolute. Top will be 50%, left will be 50%, transform translate will be 50%, minus 50%, minus 50% each, so it is centered, and width will and height will be 80%. So this is the circle inside, white circle, so this will have a background of white. Border radius will also be 50%, and display grid will be this will be grid, and place items will be centered, so the icon is centered. Now inside that we will have this responsiveness for 500 pixel, so screens above 500 pixel width, the container will have a width of 50%, and margin left and right will make sure that it is centered, and also it will have a padding of 15 pixel, and play buttons will also have a left of 50%, transform translate x of minus 50%, so it is centered horizontally. So also this is, you can see that for screen devices which have width of above 700 pixel, those are the dimensions. So let's see it in action. So if I check it for normal mode, it is looking like this, and it is responsive as well. So for advanced mode, it will look like this, and see those nice transition of those buttons. So it's working fine. So it looks like this. So required for this centering them. So now we will have have some state here, and also we will pass that state to play, and eventually back to button. So let's do this. Set selected will be this selected value, and set selected will be a function that will set the selected value to a value that is passed from the play component. So what is this selected? So for that we will have a state which will have this selected and set selected, and it will have a default value of -1 initially, and this will set the index of the button that is clicked, so that we can play the game easily. So but first of all, let me do one more thing, that is inside this shared directory we will create two files, randomInt.ts and rules.ts. So for rules.ts we will have an array of objects, that is this GameRules array will have array of objects. These objects will have a property value which will be the name of that object, here in case Scissor, paper, lizard, etc., rock, Spock, etc., and beats will be whatever is this Scissor beats actually. Okay, so Scissor in games rule actually beats paper and lizard. So for that we will have beats array will have paper and lizard. So like that I will have for paper, for rock, for Spock, and for lizard, and you should do this in serial order like this. So at least Scissor, paper, and rock should be in serial order like this. Now let's also create this randomInt function that will return a random integer for between 0 and a number that is passed to it. So n will be the number, and it will return a number as well. So it will select math.float, that is required for returning an integer, and math.random into n will multiplied by n will return a random number between 0 and 5. That will be a decimal number, but math.floor will convert it into a integer number. And also inside this play component we will have this play buttons, will have this on click, notice the L here, that will have the value and value that is passed from play buttons component to set selected value, and this set selected is that set selected which sets the original set selected. Okay, so now this on click, inside this play button we will have on click, and notice this K here, so CA like this is a bit different, and this on click will be for each button will have a prop of on click. And also notice that I have here kept on click is to any, and here also on click, and for this is just for TypeScript people, and for set selected, selected, etc. And if it is selected is less than 0, then it will display, otherwise it will not display. So I will explain it later on. So first of all, let me go to this. So for button we will pass a function that will set the on click value. This is where the value is going to be, and this value will be passed to play button, play component, and this play component will then pass it to index, and then index will set the state here. So whatever index I am passing, for the first element that is Scissor we will have an index of 0, for Spock we will have an index of 3, for paper we will have an index of 1, and these indexes are accordingly. Okay, so make that sure. And also notice I am having indexes for this one as well. Okay, so now inside this button on clicking we will call we will start this on click function, which will fire this on click function, which will set this on click function, which will set the value to the on click that is passed to play button from play. And now let me explain this one. So what is selected doing? If selected is less than 0, that is -1 or any other minus number, then it will, then only this play button will be displayed. Otherwise, if the play is selected, then we have already, player has already selected one of the item, then either it be a rock, a paper, or scissor, lizard, Spock, whatever he has selected, then we will hide this one, and after hiding this one we will have something else. I mean those let me show you once again. So here if you see that after step 2 you see you picked something and the house is picking something, so we need to show this page, and for that we need to hide the play buttons. Okay, so for that I'm passing, and why I'm passing selected inside this selected instead of conditional rendering here is just because of this animate presence, so that we can have some nice cool animations. So I found out that we should remove this animate presence from here, and also the conditional rendering from here. So I will remove it from here to index.tsx. So let me delete this, and let me also delete this, and also here this bracket leftovers and animate presence from here as well. So also I will delete this selected here, so it is unused part. So also I will delete this selected from here as well. So let's move this to index.tsx. So here we will have a conditional rendering. So if it will check if the selected is greater than or equal to 0, then we will render the results component, which I will create shortly. And this results component will also take advanced and selected and set selected props. Also, if it is not satisfies the condition, then we will, I mean selected is less than 0, -1, then we will have the play, which will have set selected and advanced only. So now let's create this results component. So inside this results component I will have the props, results will have props of selected, which will be a number, advanced will be a boolean, and set selected will be any. Here we are having this set selected as a function. So these results will also be a functional component, which will have this prop selected, set selected, advanced, and it will have two pieces of state, that is result and show. And show will be set to default value will be false, and result will be default value will be string. And also use effect, we will use use effect, and note that we are importing this use effect and use state. And use effect will have a random, we will call this random num function, which will return a random int based based on whether advance is true or not. If advance is true, then we need to return a random int between 0 and 5. Otherwise we need to return a random int between 0 and 3. So scissor paper rock is 3 and scissor paper rock Spock lizard is 5. So for that we need this advanced will return this number 5 or 3. And also user selected will be the game rules selected dot value. So that means the index selected is the index, and game rules so whatever index is selected, if 0 1 2 3 whatever index is selected, that index's object's value will be returned, and that is a user selected. And I'm logging the console logging it out, but it is just for debugging. You don't need to do that. And set timeout is something we need for so that after 2 seconds it will set show to true. Now why set show, I will explain that later on. So there will be an if statement. If the condition is satisfied, then we will set result to lose. And what is the condition now? The condition is if the game rules random number, that is the index is the random number. So the object in game rules array whose index matches with the random number, inside that object, if the bits array of that object includes this user selected value, if that includes the user selected value, then obviously we lose it, we lose the game. Otherwise, if it does not include, then if it matches with the game object's value, user selected object's value is matching with the random numbers object's value, that is the random number object's value, if it matches with that, then it means we are tying. So we have selected the same. So if it's rock and then we have selected also rock and the game rules random number also returns rock, then it's obviously a tie. Otherwise, if both this condition does not satisfy, then it will set result to win. That means we have already won then, if that both that condition does not satisfy. So here don't write this template rendering right now. I will rebuild this just shortly. So this is just for demonstration, so just see it. So if show is true, then we will return a React fragment which will have the h2 as the result, win, lose, tie, whatever, and that there will be a div which can be used on clicking which it will set the set selected to -1, so that we can get those play buttons once again, and set result will be set to empty string. So it will have a text of play again. Otherwise it will have a motion div which will have a shaking animation y20 and y0, and transition loop will be 3, so it will be shaked 3 times and it will have a text of shaking. So let me show you what I'm demonstrating. This is just for demonstration, don't write these templates right now. I will rebuild that. So let me select paper. So if I select paper, you can see that it is shaking and then it returns win, play again. And if I press play again, it returns the play buttons. Again it's shaking and it returns lose, play again. So it returns the result. And let me see on advanced mode. If I select scissor, then also it returns the result. And so the game logic is working now, as you can see. So game logic is working. Now we need to so let's have another piece of state, that is set score and set score, and score will be defaulted by 0. 0 will be the default score, and then we will pass the score value set score to the function to the results. And notice the set score spelling here, and that had a camel case, and this is the fully lowercase set score, and I will have that as a prop also. And inside this if condition where the score result, we set the result here. If the result is win, then we will set get the previous score value, and then we will increment it by 1. And if the result is lose, then we will get the previous score and we will decrement it by 1. And for tie, there will be no increment or decrement of the score, so there will be no updating of score value. That the score value is also updated after 2 seconds. So let's move that from here to the set timeout function. So let's see that now. So let me refresh it and I choose rock, then it's shaking and the score has updated. So I won and the score have also updated. So let me choose paper, and I lost and the score has decremented to 0 again. And let me choose paper once again, and I have lost, so it is -1 again. So it's working fine. So let me see for advanced mode. So if I choose lizard, then it's a tie and there is no updating of the score. So if I choose paper again, and that's win, and my score is updated once again. So it's working fine. So now I'm going to rebuild this results component. I mean this functionality will be same as previously. However, I will rebuild the rendering. Okay, so for that I will create a div which will have a class name based on whether the show is set to true or false. If it is true, then it will have a styles.results. Otherwise, it will have styles.pending. Now, this results or class or pending class is required for a grid-based view. Okay, so you will understand when I design the style CSS. So let me create another div which will be styles.peak, and there will be two divs of the peak. So these peaks are the house peaked and you peaked. Okay, so first peak will have h3 of you picked, and motion div which will have a class name if based on a condition. So it will have styles.win or styles.house based on if result is equal to win. So if results is win, that means you have picked the decision which is won. So then you will have a background which will have some wavy pulse animation. So for that you need a different class, otherwise it will have the same class of house. And initial, so I'm very bad in naming them classes, but you can choose appropriate names. And it will have an initial of y20 and animate y0 and transition loop of 3. So this will also be shaking. So inside that we will have button. Now we will reuse the button component which will have a class name of styles.button, and notice how I am passing this style class name. Also it will have another class name, that is styles2 GameRules selected.value. This is the value that is selected by the, this will return the value that is selected by the user. So it will have the styles2. Now what is this styles2? The styles2 is I am importing another styles from playmodule.css. And one more thing that I might show you is that I have changed the class names of this as Scissor and Scissor here as well. Alright, so that's because it might work together. So if it is Scissor is passed, then it will Scissor, otherwise it will be having. So this is how instead of getting that value by dot button, we will have it pass just like we get a value of an any index from an array. Like that we will use this, or value of an property by an from an object. So this is like, treat it like that. Okay, so inside that this button we will pass an image which will have a src of icon svg icon hyphen this will have the name and dot svg. So if you notice here inside this public directory, all the icons of paper, rock, scissor, it has a same format, icon hyphen the name then dot svg. So we already have the name from value, dot value will return the name. So that's how we will have the button image. And inside of another we will have another peak, as I said earlier, which will have the house peaked. So this will have the h3 of house peaked, and motion div will also have a class name according to that. So here we will have the condition. So if result triple equals to lose, so if we have chosen lose, I mean we have lost, then the house have already won. So for that case house will have the styles.win, otherwise it will have the styles.house. Now it will also have the shaking animations, and if house is present then it will have the button, otherwise it will not have this button. Okay, so if house is present, I mean, so if 2 seconds have passed, then obviously the house is set to some value. So if that is the case and the house's value is not empty, then we will render this button which will have a class name like previously. It will also have the styles2 house. Now we have already said got the value of house from the GameRules array. So now we will pass that value to this styles2 and styles.button. And now we will have this image also, and inside this image we will have pass the icon house. Now this house value, pretty self-explanatory. Now also we have another div which will have the styles.result. Now inside this result, if the show is true, then only we will have a motion div which will animate to scale x1, and initially it will have a scale x0. Now these are for transitions, you can give any transition you want. And it will also have h2 you result. Now if you win, then it will show you win, otherwise you lose, otherwise you tie, whatever result is. So it will have h2, and inside a div, this is the play button, so it will have this play again content. So on clicking, set selected will be -1 and set result will be empty, and play again. So when that's done, now let's jump into CSS. So for CSS, for results.module.css, I have already created this result.module.css here. So here we will have a results and pending. Now as I said earlier, these will have a margin top of -15%. This is the mobile first approach, and color will be white, width will be 100%, display will be grid, and grid template columns will be repeat 2 and 1 effort. So one fractional unit for and 2 columns and 2 rows. And text align will be center, align items will also be centered, and maximum height will be 560 pixel and height will be 60 vh. So this is, I have already tested, and these are working fine for various devices, so you can do it accordingly, your choice. And peak class will have a display of flex direction will be column reverse. Now why column reverse? That's because in mobile you might see that the house peaked and you peaked will be below the whatever peaked button, and in desktop view these labels will be on top of the buttons. So for that we need column reverse for mobile version. And peak h3 will have a padding of 10 pixel and margin top of 15 pixels. Now for mobile it will have a margin top, and the house will have a border radius of 50%, and background will be this black color, width will be 100 pixel and height will also be 100 pixel, and dot result will have a grid column 1 span 2. So this means that it will span from the actually inside the mobile view it will have the span from below, I mean the from the first column to the second column, into it will span to it will have a width of 2 columns, while the other these peaks will have a width of 1 column each. So for that, inside the mobile view the result will be expanding to 2 columns. For that we need this grid column 1 slash span 2, and the result div will have every div inside result will have a display of grid, place items will be centered, text transform will be uppercase, and gap will be 10 pixels. Also results h2 will have a font size of 33 pixels. So this h2 displays whether we have won or lost or tied, whatever. And dot win will have a position of relative, border radius will be 50%, and transform will have a scale of 9. Now this is absolutely not necessary. I just used it, I forgot to delete it. So transition will also have a 0.5 second, and win will have a pseudo element before and after. So for both of them there some styles will be common, such as content will be empty string, background will be this color you can get from style guide, position will be absolute, width will be 100%, top 0, left 0, height 100%, border radius will be 50%. Now win before will have a opacity of 0.7, transform will scale 1.5, and also the animation will have a 0.5 second. Now I have not created these animations, I will create that shortly. And win after will have a opacity of 0.4, scale will be 1.9, and animation will be animation 2, and z index, we note the z indexes also. So also now I will create the play button, which will have a background of white, color will be this HSL color, padding will be 15 pixel, font size 13 pixel, and width, mean width and border radius will also be there accordingly. Now I am creating the keyframes anim. For anim from scale 0 to scale 1.5, this will have a nice transition effect, and for anim 2 it will have a scale of 1.9. Now I will also have a media screen and mean width 769 pixels. So for responsive design, for this will be desktop for tablet devices. So this margin top will be 5%, grid template columns will be repeat 3 for results and pending, and width will be 70%, margin left and right will be auto, so it is centered. Now for result, the grid row will be 1 and grid column will be 2. Now what this will do is it will make the result column, it will have the result column in between the peak and both the peaks, I mean both in between both the peaks it will place this result div, and pending will be with 50%, gap will be 20 pixels. Now this overrides the pending of this. So what happens is, actually when we try to when we are fetching this result for 2 seconds, that is in these 2 seconds it will have a width of 50%, and then when we get the result its width will be increased to 70%, so it will have a nice transitions. So now peak will have a flex direction of column, and margin bottom will be 35 pixels, and this is because now the labels will change their position. So the h3 tags will be on top and the buttons will be on below. Button dot house will have a height of and width of 200 pixels each, so that inside the tablet devices it looks a bit larger, and the image inside this button transform will have scale 1.3. So if you have already forgotten, then these images will are under this button, so it will be having a bit scale will be 1.3. Also the win will also be width and height of 200 pixels. And for media screen and min width 1300 pixels, so these are for large screens, result will be width 60%, and pending will have a width of 40% with gap of 0 pixels. Now one more thing that I might show you is that you can see here this inside class we will have a box shot of inset 07 pixels, and for these all these classes scissor, rock, paper, lizard, spock, we will also have a inset of -7 pixels on the y-axis. Now let's see that in action. So I choose scissor and it does like this, and then it has a nice transition, as well as you win play again like this. So let me do that again with advanced mode. So I will do the advanced mode and play again. So it opens up to this. I choose Spock, and you can see these inset shadows also in every button, and it does like this. Let me choose paper, and it's and tie. So it's working absolutely fine. So now let me check it for the mobile devices. So if I check it for mobile devices, I am choosing iPhone X. You can see if I choose Spock, it looks like this here, and it's working fine here as well. So overall it's working absolutely fine. So if you choose the rules, it will show the rules, normal mode. I guess we are done here. So this is the final code for the index.tsx or index.js for JS tips. So you can see this, and watch out for some minor adjustments out there, just like in the div modes, advanced mode, true, then normal, otherwise advanced. So just look at that. And also this is the results.tsx or js for JS divs. So just watch those imports and other stuff, and watch that set house used a piece of state that I forgot to verbally announce. So just look at those JSX right now. This JSX you can obviously include in your project, and the animations also. This is the button. This is the header. Now this is the rules. This is the randomInt function. This is the GameRules array. So let me show you the play button component now. Play buttons component. Note the indexes here and the buttons, button components I mean. 2 grid, 3 grid, note those as well. So this is the global CSS. We import the font. You can find that in the description. So guys, do like, share and subscribe this video if you are benefited from this video. Subscribe to my channel if you are benefited from this video. This is the header.module.css. If you are learning from this video, then do leave a like and comment on how this video helped you. And this is the play.module.css. Note the class names here. So this is the rules.module.css. So this is the results.module.css, and please watch this carefully as well. So I hope you enjoyed this hour long tutorial or for this rock paper scissors lizard Spock game. So thank you guys for watching this video till the end. If you have watched this till the end, thank you for very much, as this is very helpful. And to all my subscribers who have subscribed to my channel, thank you very much. You are very supportive of me. You have supported me a lot. Thank you.